Hello, everyone. Once again, just popping in whenever my schedule allows. Thought this would be a good opportunity to show my Deathly Hallows t-shirt for anyone who hasn't figured out by now that I am a diehard Harry Potter fan. Before you ask, just in case you are watching this after the fact, I have not seen the trailer for the Harry Potter TV show yet. Normally, I'm not the biggest fan of watching trailers, but this is Harry Potter we're talking about, so of course I'm going to watch it. I figure I've read the books so many times, I've watched the movies more times than I care to admit, so I figure it's just season one. It's not like they're spoiling Deathly Hallows. Now, if they made a trailer for Deathly Hallows, that's where I would put my foot down and say, okay, let me watch the rest of the series. But, Philosopher's Stone has always been my least favorite book in the series. Um, Mainly just because it's just a giant setup and not a whole lot happens in the grand scheme of things. Like, basically, the entire book is just Harry figures out he's a wizard, then he learns how to be a wizard, and then he goes after the stone. Like, not a whole lot of epic moments to be had. Whereas Deathly Hallows, nearly every other minute has at least something happening. Even when they're camping in the woods, there's usually some kind of major revelation they have in every single chapter. Even if you count all the chapters where they're hiking, there's always something that propels the story forward. But Rowling is such a good writer that she makes you think that nothing is being accomplished, even though it is. And oh my gosh, I can't get over how great Deathly Hallows is. It's by far my favorite book. And I think I. It's one of those books where every time you reread it, you realize you actually didn't know as much as you thought you did. And then you see everything again with this new perspective. And it's one of those books that I feel like I don't know if I'll ever get tired of rereading it. Mainly just because when I get into something that's fictional, I like games or movies or books where every single moment feels meaningful and it feels distinct. What's cool about Deathly Hallows is every single chapter feels very different from the last. And I can actually remember the order of the chapters. And I know, okay, I know that this has to happen after this because it has a very distinct flow to it. That's why I love Banjo-Kazooie so much, because every world feels different, every world feels distinct, and all the jiggies feel distinct because they feel like you have to accomplish vastly different objectives in order to get through the world. So games like, for example, New Super Mario Bros. U, I'm not going to like as much because the levels kind of blend together. It's like, okay, this is yet another moving platform level, but this time the platforms tilt. Okay, lovely. But what makes me love going back to games that I love that have these epic set pieces. One of my favorite examples of an underrated game is Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. Now, what I love about that game is that, again, every single chapter feels distinct from each other. Every courtroom case feels very memorable because once you know how it all wraps up, all of a sudden you're able to realize what it was leading up to. And does the game have plot holes? Heck yeah. And I know a lot of people who think Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright is an abomination because of those plot holes. But here's my perspective. In my opinion, I would rather have a good story that has a lot of plot holes than a good story that doesn't attempt any kind of explanation. At least with Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, sure, there may be parts of the plot that are contrived and like, oh, okay, that would never happen. But at least they attempt to explain what went on. They say, oh, well, this happened, and that's what caused this event to happen. So I think I can forgive it a lot more than I can other story-driven games. And what I also like about Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright is that I'm the type of person who's more of a journey over the destination kind of guy. So as you're playing the story, it does a magnificent job of slowly feeding the story to you, but not too slowly. There's hardly any time that feels like you're just wasting time. And the few examples in the game where you could consider it time wasting actually feels like it's developing meaningful connections between the characters. Because at some points in the game, every single combination of Phoenix, Maya, Luke, and Layton get a chance to have some one on one time. And so you get to see, like, what would a game where Maya, Faye, and Herschel Layton are interacting with each other look like? That's what also helps those segments be memorable, especially when you get the pairs of characters that don't know each other. Because then you're like, oh, it is so distinct the way that Maya and Layton talk to each other that now you remember every single scene that they're in. So it does something to differentiate every single scene from the other one. And as a result, I could probably walk through pretty much the entire story if someone challenged me to. I even wrote like this mini walkthrough of sorts for my mom. And I read it out to her and I did all the accents. And she said, "Oh, Paul, this was such a great story." She's not as good at spotting plot holes as I am. I think she just thought it was very intricate and well thought out and had good lessons about like how trauma can shape our perspectives. And it even got me to make a surprisingly well-received video for the time that I put it out. A video that I called the Ace Attorney Multiverse Theory. Unfortunately, it's been debunked. But for a while, I thought that Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, or not that game. That Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright wouldn't have existed in the same timeline as the Apollo Justice games. Again, this was proven false once Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice came out. But I seriously thought that like Trials and Tribulations was in one timeline and Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright came, I'd like to say like between that and Justice for All, and then like after you get the bad ending in Justice for All, that led into the Apollo Justice timeline. Because as far as I could tell, there were no instances where they referenced Trials and Tribulations in that game. But you'd be surprised how many people, after my theory was proven wrong, still came up to me and said, "Wow, your theory is so well thought out, and it makes perfect sense." Now, I don't have the reach to be able to influence video games that much, but I have influenced video games a few times. I think I've made videos on the subject, so I won't go too in depth. But I did vote for Banjo and Kazooie in the Smash ballot, and that wish came true. In fact, I know it came true because of me, because Masahiro Sakurai confirmed that Banjo and Kazooie were the number 2 fighters picked worldwide. The only ones that beat them was Sora. And I felt super happy that I and most of the world loved Banjo and Kazooie more than any other fighter except for Sora. It feels great when you know that you're not the only one that loves something. Because I remember when I first got into Banjo Kazooie, hardly anyone else could share in my enjoyment of the game. And it felt like for the longest time, I just had this super niche hobby that no one else cared about. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't like following trends, but that's the thing. When I got into Banjo Kazooie, it wasn't a trend. There were other games that were trendy, I just didn't play them. And so when I discovered channels like Jiggy Look Back and basically anyone who's ever talked about Banjo Kazooie, it was an amazing revelation for me. But I wanted to circle back to what I was saying a couple of minutes ago about, well, first let me put something in chat. Okay, cool. hopefully that should fix things. um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, circling back over to how I like games that feel like the entire experience is memorable. It's why I love games like Twilight Princess so much. Because in Twilight Princess, every single dungeon centers around some kind of central concept and a central item, and the bosses really make use of that item to take the boss down creatively. And as a result, every single set piece feels like it was carefully crafted to lead up to that moment. And it also encourages you to like make your own set pieces at times. But what makes me love Tears of the Kingdom ever so slightly more is that Twilight Princess can be an absolute slog to navigate through. Like, there's a big unskippable tutorial at the beginning, which I still defend that tutorial way more than I do Wind Waker's or Skyward Swords. But when capturing footage, I will admit it can be a bit of a pain. But what I've always said makes Twilight Princess's tutorial great, where other games fail, is that it fits with the story and it contextualizes both the player's experience and Link's feelings at the same time so that you can have empathy for one another. Because Link starts out as just this ordinary farm boy, and he's got, a relatively easy life, and you get a chance to play through this laid back, oh, just collect a bunch of rupees and buy a slingshot so that you can impress the village children. Like, it's supposed to feel mundane, but it's not boring. It's teaching you how to play the game. And it's like the tasks are so soothing. Like the graphics, like you're in this water village where there's this river running through it. And the water is so soothing, and Link's footsteps in the grass, it just all feels very pleasant. So while you're doing it, you're bombarded with, at the time, really impressive graphics, and even today, I kind of wish Zelda would return to that general art style. But then, once you get out of Ordon Village, and I won't say what happens, you're immediately, almost immediately, turned into a wolf, and then you experience this entirely new world called the Twilight Realm. So then you have to adjust to this, and then once you're finished being a wolf, all of a sudden you realize, hey, the fate of the entire kingdom is in my hands. And so all of a sudden you realize, wow, suddenly the game has shifted from this casual jaunt through this pleasant village into this epic quest that I think to this day I would say no other Zelda game has felt this epic. Yeah, the internet ruined that. But welcome in, Jevil. How are you doing? Have you ever played Twilight Princess, by the way? I really don't hear enough of my friends talking about that game. But I remember the few people that I did talk about Twilight Princess with absolutely loved it. I know a few complaints a couple of people brought up where the game can be too easy at times. My counter to that is at least it's always fun when it's easy. Like, sure, a lot of the bosses, you can easily exploit them without taking a hit. But it's fun to exploit them. And they give you this sense of dopamine from just the act of taking them down. And when you learn Link's like new swordplay moves, sure, a lot of them are unnecessary, but they're cool. They make it so that you feel like you're not just mashing buttons, but you can actually like chain together combos, almost like you're playing a fighting game. And honestly, that's the best thing that I can say about Twilight Princess is it's a game that prioritizes coolness over anything else. Like, if you press A at just the right point after you finish with a battle, Link will like twirl around his sword and put it back into the sheath. It's totally unnecessary, but it makes Link seem so cool. Like, he's a goat herder, so of course he'd be very muscular and very built if he's doing all these farm chores. And the game puts him into all these scenarios where he's given the opportunity to flex his strength. And that's a very clever way that the game contextualizes a lot of its tutorials. Like, you learn how to ride a horse by your boss telling you that you have to put goats into the barn. So you're given this low stress environment where you can practice riding the horse in an area where you have a really hard time failing. And then you're told that the kids really want to know how you fight. So they're saying, hey, can you do this move? It's the thing that you do when you press this button combination. And I don't know. I personally think it's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. I do think that is a definite possibility, even if I'm pretty angry at Nintendo right now, if I'm being honest, Jevil. I really did not want to know all that stuff. Honestly, I didn't want to know anything about the Mario Galaxy movie except that it exists. In my personal opinion, this might be controversial, but in my personal opinion, I feel like the marketing during the Switch 2 generation is almost as bad, if not worse, than it was during the Wii U days. Because sure, the Wii U advertising was cringy as heck, but you've got so many people that had fond memories with the Wii U. But some of their advertising in the Switch 2 generation, on the other hand, feels like they're actively making people more angry. Like, sure, they didn't do a good job of convincing people to buy the Wii U, but people still wanted the Switch, they just felt buyer's remorse. Whereas I think a lot of people that actually did buy the Wii U really liked it. They just wish games would come out more frequently. Whereas with the Switch 2, it just seems like they're doing everything in their power to hate on it. I wish that there was a way. I get where you're coming from, Jevil, but for me personally, I wish there was a way to block out all of those spoilers so that people that don't like things like leaks and rumors can have some form of like how in Nintendo Music they have an option to turn off spoilers. I wish there was that kind of option for things like YouTube or Nintendo Today. Oh, Nintendo Today, ugh. They're a piece of work when it comes to the Mario Galaxy movie as well. But apart from that, got any big news? Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. Did you get a chance to play the Tomodachi Life demo? Because I actually tried it out, and I think, you know what? I have to admit, it was pretty charming. I'm not normally a big fan of those kinds of low pressure games where you don't have an overarching objective. But the fact that there's so much customization, it's a Nintendo game that actually gives you options to mix and match the sound and the music. And again, it's been a long time since I played the original Tomodachi Life, but it feels more expressive. Like, if you're like me, where you just don't like shipping people, you can literally tell every single villager to be asexual. Like, I don't think you had that choice in the original Tomodachi Life. You can choose what you want to talk about, and then you can clarify if it's like a thing, an object, or an event, or a person. And then, like, when you say the name of your island, you can customize how it's pronounced, which I thought was cool because I made up the name of my island because it's the name of a place in my book. And the game actually registered the correct pronunciation. I'm a bit disappointed that personality types are really hard to make. Like, they give you these sliders, so like, how polite are you versus this? And there's like so many options. And I had to keep backing in and out of that menu saying, no, that's not the personality my character wanted. Because there's this girl in my novel that I wanted on my island who's this really timid, really shy kind of girl, but she's a real sweetheart at the same time. And yet, when I first did her personality test, thinking how would she answer these questions, it said that she was the logical and aloof type. I was like, yes, she's shy, but I wouldn't call her logical in the slightest. So I think I wish there was just an option to just pick their personality, like you could in Miitopia, where like in that game, you flat out you had all these verbs, and you just say, okay, I think this person is stubborn. I think this person is easygoing. Like, Tomodachi Life was the precursor to Miitopia. Miitopia was meant to be a spin-off to apologize to all of the people who were not thrilled with Tomodachi Life. Check back on Mario Meaty. Mario Brothers Super Show. Wait, hold on. What are you saying? The Mario Brothers Super Show came first show that actually was inspired. Well, actually, yes. The Mario Brothers plumbing song was the theme song of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. So yes, that can't be denied. But what I was saying is that it depends on which one came first. Because if it's true that the Super Show came before the live action Mario movie, actually, let me look that up. Super Mario Brothers Super Show release date. Because you could be right about that. Okay. Okay, it came out in 1989. Okay. Well, to be fair, I have never seen the Super Show, so I really can't say one way or another. But if you do watch the 1993 movie and you zoom in on the Mario Brothers plumbing van, and then you compare it to the plumbing van in the 2023 movie, they look eerily similar, like almost too similar, unless if there's something like that in the Super Show. But again, I don't know. But oh, hello, Kevin. I've got a lot going on, honestly. But I'll try to keep it positive. Yes, good to see you too, Kevin. How are you doing? I'm going to stick to the positive because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in my life. And I've heard that it's pretty typical for the devil to throw everything at you near Holy Week because he knows that Easter is the best time of the year. And as a result, that's when he wants to tempt us the most because Easter is supposed to be a time of great joy. And when we're miserable, well, that leads us away from God because what's the number one excuse that people make when they're not Christians anymore? It's God didn't answer my prayer. God's a meanie. If God loved me, why would he allow me to suffer? It's the people that persist through the suffering that I think are the strongest Christians. But on the good side, I finalized the dates that Isabel and my friend and her sister and her brother-in-law are coming over. So I'm going to make a post when it gets closer to the day saying that I'm going to take a break from YouTube that time. I'm going to be hanging out with another friend a couple of days before that. Haven't hung out with her in quite a while. My rental of Super Mario Brothers Wonder Switch 2 Edition is on the way. There was something else. Oh, my sister more or less confirmed that she's going to treat me to the Mario Galaxy movie the day it comes out, not the midnight launch, but like the evening of April 1st is what I mean. You wouldn't be oh, yeah. We'll leave that to speculation for now, Jevil. Yeah. Well, this situation that I've been going through has been going on since Good Friday of 2024. So we're hoping that it's going to be one of those full circle moments where he's throwing stuff at us early so that by the time Good Friday comes again, things will be better. Hello, Billy. If I remember correctly, you came in just briefly the last live stream that you were at. You could only say hi. So I'd like to know more about you if that's okay. Like, what are some things that you like doing? Do you like video games? Don't answer how you found my channel, but instead answer of the videos that are still up. Which ones do you like the most? Oh, I love going to the movies with my sister. Yeah, no, I love going to the movies with my sister so much that I promised her that if I ever got a girlfriend, I would insist that my sister would be with me because I would say, no, 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 no. That's the thing that my sister and I do. You and I can do other stuff. I don't think I'll ever get a girlfriend at this point, though, but you never know. You've been subscribed for a while? Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that, Billy. what was I going to say? Yeah, I've come to realize that obviously I have no way of proving it, but I think most of my subscribers are the secret admirer variety, not in the romantic way, but they tend to like my stuff behind the scenes. A friend sent you my channel like a year ago. Just nice guy, blah, blah. Oh, that's so funny. Well, I'd like to think I'm a nice guy. It depends on who you talk to. You love going to Cinemark? I've never heard of that. Is that like a type of theater? Have I heard of the character Wart? Yes, I have heard of Wart. He was the final boss of Super Mario Bros. 2. I never beat Super Mario Bros. 2, but I know of him because he had a spirit battle in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. A Batman AMC popcorn bucket. Oh, very, very nice, Kevin. Let me think. The most memorable time I ever had going to the theater was when I went to go see Order of the Phoenix, and they had a sorting ceremony while we were waiting in line. And then the concession stands all served Harry Potter related candy. So we got some Bertie Bott's, every flavor of beans, fizzing Whizbees. I think they had chocolate frogs as well. Um, and then the blood flavored lollipops. I forgot about those. They weren't actually blood flavored. They tasted more like strawberries. But, blood flavored lollipops were a thing in Prisoner of Azkaban. Um, you liked my video on maintaining a long-term friendship. Ooh. I actually forgot that I made that video. That must have been one of my really early ones. You have been subscribed for a while, but thank you, Billy. I really appreciate hearing that. I think, yeah, I try to see all of my friends. Well, maybe not all of them. I try to see most of my friends once a month. And that has really proven to be a challenge because a lot of my friends are now married and having kids, and they can't spend as much time with me as they used to be able to. But we find ways to make it work. Sometimes we talk on the phone if we can't hang out, and usually we'll try to make our hangouts extra special. So like my friend Sarah, for example, she really likes going on walks. So usually when she plans a hangout, she'll want to pick a good hiking spot or like the boulevard by my house where you can't get lost because it's all in one big circle, but it's so fun to at least try to get lost. And then there's my friend Danielle, who she really likes watching my YouTube channel. So she'll often say, Paul, can you show me a video on your channel and then I can react to it in real time? So I love personalizing my friendships. Oh, yes, I agree. I am very blessed, but I appreciate you acknowledging that, Kevin. I wouldn't mind going to theaters by myself. It's just that there are no movies I want to watch by myself. I'm the type of guy that when I watch a movie, it's always with my sister. Always. I don't even remember the last time I saw a movie alone. Oh, I appreciate you acknowledging my flexibility. Um, it was hard at first. Once my friends started getting married, it was excruciating. In fact, I remember one of the first examples of where I just completely lost it was when my friend Jen I think she was either dating or had just gotten married. And we were taking a walk, and I was talking about people I missed. And I think she got the idea that I didn't want to say who it was. So then I said, yeah, it's you. And then I burst out crying because I was like, Jen, I don't want to lose you. You're such a good friend of mine. I know we're not going to date, but I still want to be friends. And admittedly, with the way that she acts and operates, we've really had to spread out our friendships, but every now and then she'll send me these nice little messages saying, hey, I didn't forget about you. I just have kids now, and that's a whole ordeal in and of itself. But I know she still thinks of me because sometimes she'll like my posts, or sometimes she'll send me a birthday wish, and it'll be a voice message. It won't just be the generic happy birthday. Good one, Jevil. Actually, Kevin Afghani did do a pretty good job in Hello Mario. That game's free, by the way. So if any of you guys have either a smartphone or a Switch, nothing's stopping you except hard drive space. It's a super easy game, but very rewarding while it lasts. It even has a time limit. She sounds like a good person. She, I would say she's a very good person, but she and I have a very love-hate relationship. Sometimes we love each other and sometimes we're at each other's throats, but it's always from good intentions, I would say. Like, whenever she's mad at me, it's always, I think you could do better. And whenever I'm mad at her, it's always, I think we could both do better. So we're, we're good at making each other, with, we're good at holding each other accountable. What game? Hello Mario. It could be worse. Oh, don't I know it? You guys saw in my best memories of 2025 video that that girl Ashley and we didn't have any communication at all for 13 years straight. And when she came back, it was, I felt like I was the master of social skills, because I was like, whoa, I thought that I was really messed up. But if she, if we can reconcile after that long, then I can take on anyone. And so now I don't feel as bad about like friendships drifting apart, because it's like, hey, you know what? They could just do another Ashley and just randomly show up again after 13 years. No, nothing like Hello Kitty, although to be fair, I haven't played that. But basically what it is it's like the face pulling mini game in Super Mario 64, but they stretched it out into an entire game. And there's a lot more that you can do with Mario's face, that brings up all this other very weird stuff. Your sister's called you a psychopath. I'm pretty sure everyone in this world has some kind of condition at this point. I've definitely had my moments where how do I word this? I think there's so much of a stigma around mental health and neurological health that people seem to think that it's so taboo to be able to be in one of those positions. And I admit I fell into that trap for a while too, where like I thought that people who were constantly sad all the time just weren't taking the measures to get themselves out of that sadness, only for me to eventually realize that I myself was in depression around that time. So I was kind of taking it out on them. But speaking of which, especially now that you're here, Billy, because I don't know if you've heard this before, this month, why do I hold my comb? This month marks exactly 10 years since I got out of depression. Yeah, I'm glad that Hello Kitty made it into Animal Crossing. That was very nice. But yeah, so 10 years out of depression, 10 years of me reviewing video games, 10 years since Operation Sister Smile. At least it's not hallucinations. I remember my grandma had hallucinations for a while, and my mom was like, yeah, it's definitely not something to laugh at. But you know what? I think that, in my opinion, people on the mental health or the neurological spectrum, because they have to struggle so much to fit in with society and not make everyone think they're a bunch of freaks. Yes, good point, Jevel. I don't have any redeems on this channel. I think that those people end up having better relationships in the long run because they try so hard to, oh, you have to head out? Yeah. Thanks for thanks for showing up, Billy. I hope you have a great rest of your day. But yeah, I think people who struggle more with fitting in will remember what they learned more than people who are, I don't know, just oblivious. And they'll take notes of all their failures and all of their lessons. And then the next thing you know, they're like mega popular and everyone loves them. it's a pattern I've observed over and over again. It's why I think the most famous celebrities are the ones that had some kind of issue. Like you take Helen Keller, who was blind and deaf. Then she became a national speaker. You got Einstein. I'm pretty sure he was autistic, and now people call him a genius. Tony Melendez was born without arms, so he learned how to play the guitar with his feet. Now he's famous. Jesse Manibusan. I met him quite a few times. He suffered through depression, and yet he always wore a smiley face shirt and still would try to encourage people about how excited it is, how exciting it is to be Catholic. So I think people with special needs are able to change the world. We just need society to start realizing that and stop making fun of people for being different. Helen Keller couldn't fly a plane. Yeah, I don't get it. I'm not much of a memer, as I'm sure you know. I tend to only trust the memes that actually are based on fact, as opposed to just people trying to create humor for the sake of them being trolls. So, like, if people make memes about like certain personality types who are really future focused, but then they forget what's right in front of them, those are funny because I know that that's 100% true. Like, I know someone who is so futuristic that he was planning out what he was going to do with the kids, and he was planning out what he was going to do with his wedding. He didn't even have a girlfriend at that point. But yet, when something happens in the moment, like if someone tries talking to him when he didn't expect it, he just gets so thrown off. And it's like, you're such a genius. You know all this stuff about architecture and engineering, and you know all these doctrines, yet someone taps you on the shoulder and that startles you. Like, what the heck? Those are the kind of memes that I find funny because they're true. But if someone just like takes a screenshot of someone's face out of context and tries to make a joke out of it, like think about how that person feels. Like, I remember Masahiro Sakurai really did not like it when people memed him. And people ended up just harping on him, saying, oh, you just don't get American society. You're just such a Japanese person. And I don't know. To me, that sounds like maybe ever so slightly racist, but I'm not one to judge because I've been called racist myself. I've only seen one movie that Shia LaBeouf is in, and that was Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I did not like that movie. I thought Harrison Ford did a pretty good job, though, and I met Karen Allen, so that was fun. The question that I asked her when I was in line with her was, I said, when you were working with Harrison Ford, I know he has a reputation for being gruff, but did he treat you well? And she said, oh, yeah. He's gruff, but in a good kind of way, and we always had a good time when we were in movies together. So it was great to be able to have that confirmation of how nice he is. And he does seem like the kind of guy that maybe he's not like touchy-feely, but it certainly seems like he prioritizes other people's feelings over his own, which, I really admire those types of people. It's something that I strive to do myself, but I just can't. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just so aware of my own emotions so much that it takes a lot of work to not try to relate what someone says to my own problems. But I must be doing a decent enough job because I do get asked for relationship advice quite a lot. And I do get quite a lot of people that spill out their problems to me. If I had 5 fictional characters to eat dinner with, who would you choose? Sigma from... No, I take that back. He's too much of a pervert. Ooh. Probably Monica from Doki Doki Literature Club. The version from the side stories. I don't know, the 4 girls in the Doki Doki Literature Club, that's 4 by itself. In the side stories universe, not the main game. In the side stories, they just feel genuinely relatable, almost as if the creator was speaking from his own personal experience. And I have a friend who doesn't like playing games, but she looked up the side stories. And she said that the advice that these girls gave was like consistent with actual scientific principles of like getting along and mental health and all that. And she was just amazed by it. There's a reason why Doki Doki Literature Club Plus was my game of the year of 2021, even though I hate dating sims. And then I need to think of a fifth. Hmm. Fictional character to eat dinner with. Ooh. See, that's the thing. It really depends on the fictional character. Probably Selena. For those of you that don't know, Selena is a character that I invented in the novels that I wrote that I did not publish. Now, those novels are sort of available that you guys can check out for free. I made a video on those novels, and it was called The Secrets of the Dawn Trilogy. And I made that video with the knowledge that these books are never going to get published. Um, and I'm too embarrassed to even try because I wrote those when I was like, I think I was like a teenager when I first wrote those books. And a lot has changed since I last wrote them. And so I I figured I would get my ideas out there, and the video did pretty well. I got a lot of people saying like, "Wow, those are some really amazing concepts that you came up with in your books, and it's a real shame that you didn't get them published." But when I designed Selena in that book, my goal was to make a girl that I would want to hang out with. That, again, I wrote them when I was a teenager, and girls and I didn't get along very well back then. So I was like so desperate for someone to actually be nice to me that I created Selena as kind of like, if I were to show that book to actual girls, I would have hoped that they would have been like Selena. Nowadays, I have some amazing friends, and a lot of them have actually unintentionally acted like her, even though they've never read the books. So I ended up getting my wish by sheer accident. So I feel very honored that I have just such a great circle of friends and family. You know, I'm not much of a Batman guy, but I did like Batman versus Superman, mainly because that came out around the time that Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright came out. And I just liked the idea of two superheroes with completely different perspectives on an issue, um, fighting it out. And like, it wasn't just a fight, like, you also got to hear them talk about it. And yeah, the movie was trash, but the actual fight was amazing. But in concept, I think if you had a better director, it would have been a masterpiece. But yeah, that's why I love Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright so much. Is two geniuses going at it, and you wonder who is going to win because these guys have both taken on some really insane cases. Batman 2022 depends on what's in it, because I have certain fears that I will not say here. And if it has those kinds of things in it, I will probably be grossed out. I have seen the Dark Knight trilogy, though, and admittedly, the more I watch it, the more I don't like it. Just because at the time I watched it, I feel like I was really influenced by a lot of my friends being into like philosophical matters. And I guess like deep down inside, I wanted to. No, it's not gore. I'm not afraid of gore. Um, I think deep down, I wanted to sound like I knew what they were talking about because I felt like I was the only person among my friend circle that didn't understand a word these characters were saying. So whenever people would bring up like the psychological torment that the Joker put people through, there was a part of me that was like, I feel really bad that you guys had to explain that to me. I wish I would have picked up on all of that. But I liked the cinematography, and I liked how Christopher Nolan was all about practical effects And so, like, there was hardly any CGI, which I really liked. Spider-Man, Goku, Eevee, Luigi, and SpongeBob. Is it sad that I hardly know who any of those guys are except for Luigi? Well, you know me by now, Jevil. I hardly ever do what's popular. I saw the Mario movie. That was popular. But to be honest, I almost didn't see the Mario movie. Um, my sister, um, my sister took me to go see it for my birthday, and I said, what the heck? I'll give it a try." And I ended up loving it, which I went into it with very, very low expectations. I was like, "Oh, I hope it's not the disaster that the 1993 one was." Tons of Luigi's Mansion 1. I actually did the same thing recently where I beat the original game on the Switch too. I beat it on the original GameCube as well. And then I also beat the 3DS version. Unfortunately, the more I play it, the more I really don't like it. But credit where credit is due. Charles Martinet's voice acting is incredible. And I like the atmosphere of the place, like the lighting and the sounds of the thunder outside the mansion, the dust coming from Luigi's footsteps, the way that, like, Charles Martinet will, like, hum the song and then he'll whistle it at other times. I think that was great. I met Charles Martinet in person, so that adds a lot to it. I also met Jen Taylor in person, and she voiced the Toads. I even have a picture of me with Jen Taylor, which you guys can check out in my Comic-Con 2024 video, and also in my Best Memories of 2024 video. 2 and 3 were goofy. Honestly, while it's true that I liked the more scary parts of Luigi's Mansion 1, at the same time, the animation in that game was so stiff. Like, it seemed like the only facial expression Luigi knew how to make was a scared one. Whereas you got to see way more of a range in his expressions in 2 and 3. Now, I never beat Luigi's Mansion 2. I hated the mission structure, and I hated the lack of checkpoints in it. And I also just didn't like how linear it was. Like, at least with Luigi's Mansion 1, you had the illusion of freedom. Luigi's Mansion 3, though, was incredible. I loved Luigi's Mansion 3. Yeah, it was a GameCube tech. And for its time, it was very great. But going back to it is a real pain in the neck. Especially those boos. Like, chasing the boos from room to room was really annoying. And then, like, the vacuuming the ghosts kind of got a bit repetitive after a while because, like, it seemed like no matter how fast you were in pressing the R button after shining the flashlight on them, they'd still disappear. And then there was this one boss. I think he's called Boo Lossus. That just drives me crazy. I hated him back then, and I hated him even more. What's that symbol you just did, Kevin? Oh, there we go. My computer was just being weird. Weird. Yeah, room to room. Yeah, very annoying. Samantha Kelly was the actress that came after Jen Taylor. Jen Taylor was the voice of Peach and Toad. I think she started in 2000 or 2001, one of the two. And she voiced all the way until around 2005. Then Nicole Mills temporarily took over while they were sorting out Samantha Kelly's contract. And then Samantha Kelly made her debut in Mario Strikers Charged. And she voiced Peach and Toad in every subsequent game after that, with her final performance being Mario and Luigi Brothership. But I think the final game that she actually recorded new lines for, it's debatable. It's either Super Mario Party Jamboree or Princess Peach Showtime. One of the two. Oh, yes. Speaking of Tomodachi Life, you weren't here earlier, Kevin, but I was talking about my impressions of the Tomodachi Life demo. And I actually quite like it. I don't think I'm going to be as into it as, like, most of these like Animal Crossing and Pokemon Pokopia streamers, because again, I need more structure in my games. But there's a certain charm to seeing characters that you made, that you customized, interacting with each other, and the level of personalization is just phenomenal. Like, to give you an example, and again, I'm eventually going to review it once my rental copy comes, but in the demo alone, I was able to establish Denport Island, which the game actually pronounces correctly. Like, all of the characters on my island, you can only have 3 in the demo. I have 3 characters from my novels. It was a real pain in the neck trying to figure out their personalities, but I was able to like tweak their voices and how fast they talk, and um, I like the water effect. It did give a lot of New Horizons vibes to it. Again, there's really no story at this point, which kind of bugs me, but at the same time, I'm so charmed by the fact that I created the characters on the island and I personalized everything. It's it's this unreal type of feeling, because I don't know if you guys have noticed this in my reviews, but I try my best to show my biases in every single one of them. And again, some games don't really allow that, like pools. Like, how are you supposed to show bias there? Just diving underwater a lot? But in games like, say, Fall Guys, I made the Fall Guy be my favorite color. In Mario Tennis Fever, I played as Pauline because I like Super Mario Odyssey. And so I feel like the new Tomodachi Life is going to be my excuse to be the most biased I've ever been in my reviews since I reviewed Miitopia. Danganronpa 2x2 is still saying 2026. Yeah, I'm pretty annoyed by that as well, but I'd rather that than have the game be announced too early and then not come out for like 10 years, like Metroid Prime 4 was. So if Spike Chunsoft can still get it out in 2026, then I'm okay with waiting a little bit longer. But yes, if you guys want to give Tomodachi Life a try early, just download the demo. As far as I can tell, I can't really think of any major problems with the game. It ran great, sounded great. Um, it even had a pretty decent options menu by Nintendo standards, which that's a big deal for me, because what is the one thing I do when I start up a game? Always go to the options menu first. If you ever send me a review code of a game that you make, I know there's at least one game dev that might actually watch this. Put in a good options menu. If you have the most amazing game in the world but terrible options, I'm going to call you out on it. What was I going to say? I actually might put the new Tomodachi Life on my best games of 2026 list. That would be wild if I did, because I am, again, that kind of game just isn't my thing, but the personalization aspect might make me change my mind. It is still coming, Xbox Series, even though they forgot to mention. Well, I don't really play games on Xbox, but I hope that people reading this are happy about that, because I do hope that as much people can play it as possible. But with regards to Danganronpa 2x2, that is the game that I'm, how do I word this? Of all the games I'm excited for this year, there are, I think, 4 that I'm the most excited about. I don't know much about what's going on with Xbox, so that's more of a Jevil question. But I do know that they announced a new console, and it's going to play both Xbox and PC games. And I've heard people say that's why it's a problem. Personally, I think that's cool, honestly. But that's just my perspective. But the games I'm the most excited for this year, number 1 is an undisclosed game that I'm not allowed to mention. But again, as I've said before, the developer has promised a review code if it ever comes out to the Switch. Technically, he promised a review code for Steam, but I said I have too much trouble with Steam, so I'll just wait for it to come on Switch. Danganronpa 2x2 would be number 2. Then Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is number 3. Deltarune Chapter 5, that would be number 4. 5, that's a good question. Probably Yoshi, because I really like Yoshi games. Well, one thing I do like about Steam is that's how I experienced Zero Escape the Nonary games. I got to hear 999 with voice acting for the first time, and it was glorious. Unfortunately, I know, in fact, 100% of the people that I introduced 999 to through the Steam version had no idea what they were doing with that flowchart. So if there's one thing I'm really hoping that they fix, if that game ever comes to Switch or Switch 2, is explain the flowchart better. Because like I said, every single person who did not play the DS version first had to ask me to explain it to them because they were like, I have no clue what this flowchart's trying to say. Just saying hi, randomly found yourself here. Well, hello, Doc Davies. I don't know how long you're going to stick around, but I am primarily known for video game reviews and trying to see Catholic messages in just about everything, even Life is Strange 2. Sometimes I talk about personality types and Myers-Briggs, but don't get used to it. It's just when I feel like it. I like to do live streams at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do not know how often I can keep that up, but it is something I will... Like, that timing is probably going to be consistent, is what I'm trying to say. And I like to get into conversations with everyone who shows up. So if you leave a comment, expect me to always respond to it. But assuming you're still here, because again, YouTube's number of people showing up here is not very reliable. How are you doing, Doc Davies? Zero Escape is on Xbox except for Zero Time Dilemma. Oh, that's a shame. Oh, Zero Time Dilemma is my favorite game in the series. I want more people to play that one. And I know that's an unpopular opinion, but as someone who has played that game probably at least 16 times, and has seen the game be streamed probably like 4 or 5 times, you begin to pick up on things that you missed on a first playthrough that make you realize maybe this game wasn't as bad as the internet made it out to be. Your state is getting hot? That is hilarious, because I had to wear 3 jackets going outside to get the mail today. That is so funny. But yeah, where I live, it's quite cold. But usually April is a pretty hit or miss month for where I live. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But April is my birthday this year, so I am hoping that I'll actually have some good news for my birthday. Long ago, you had to try Zero Time Dilemma on Steam, and on Xbox you got the Nonary Games collection. Yeah, I'm glad that you got at least 2 of them. But yeah, that is weird. Why wouldn't they put all 3 games on there? Now, Zero Escape, that is one series that is meant to be, like... If you played 999 and stopped there, I think you'd be fine, but once you commit to playing more, you have to see it through to the end. Like, you can't just stop after Virtue's Last Reward. You have to keep going and see how Zero Time Dilemma wraps it up. The creator more or less said as much. He said, yeah, the Virtue's Last Reward and Zero Time Dilemma were not part of the original plan. Like, when they made 999, they intended it to be a standalone game. But then the series was so popular in North America that they decided to make it a trilogy. But then Virtue's Last Reward sold so terribly that they put the game on indefinite hiatus. But then fans got together and made Operation Bluebird. Again, if you played the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the petition was so successful that Zero Time Dilemma actually came out earlier than when Spike Chunsoft said it would. They said it was, I think, like November of 2016. It came out in like June or July of 2016. And I was one of the only people in the world that adored it. And I think I proceeded to do a second playthrough like 2 days later because I loved it so much. And it was heartbreaking to hear so many people say that it was an abomination and it ruined the series. Like, did it have problems? Yeah. But like I said earlier in this stream, I would rather have a story that at least attempts to explain itself as opposed to leaving everything up to the imagination. Yes, Zero Time Dilemma does leave a lot to your imagination, but again, if you play it enough times, you begin to realize, oh, that line of dialogue now means something different. Now that I'm on the 15th playthrough. Okay, on the 16th playthrough, now I see that this scene was hinting at what Virtue's Last Reward was trying to say. So it's one of those games where it's like the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And most people only played the game like twice when they started hating on it. If I were a comic book character like DC or Marvel, I would be the janitor. Because I don't think I have the bravery to be a hero. And I certainly don't have the bravery to be a villain. I would be the guy in the background who cleans up after the heroes. Or I'd be like the butler, where I'd like clean up all the mansions and stuff like that. Oh, that's good that it's on Xbox now. Very nice, Jevil. Well, I hope you're able to experience that masterpiece in some form. Like Alfred? Yeah, I would really like to be like Alfred. Maybe not exactly like him, because I've heard butlers actually get pretty bad treatment. But just, I love cleaning, and I love being at the bottom of the corporate ladder, so to speak. For those of you that don't know what that means, it means like the top of the corporate ladder means that you like to be in charge of people, and you're like the highest position at the job. The bottom is the lowest position. So something like the guy who takes out the trash or the guy who cleans up the place. That's me. I do not like being in charge of people. You already did. You wish. Yeah. Yeah, that's a shame that they took their sweet time. But at the very least, as a Nintendo fan, I am really grateful that Zero Escape actually started as a DS exclusive. And then Virtue's Last Reward and Zero Time Dilemma were both 3DS games. And I think they were actually designed with the 3DS in mind first, because Virtue's Last Reward started development as a DS game. But then they started getting word of the 3DS, and then they switched over development, which is why it looks so rocky. Apparently, they didn't know what they were doing, because when Zero Time Dilemma came out, it looked even worse. Well, Batman treats Alfred like family. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. But then again, I highly doubt that would ever happen. Like, I don't know, maybe in heaven there will be a reality where I can be a superhero, but I doubt it. Just because I feel like God is the superhero in heaven and we're all like part of his family. Which Danganronpa character has the best bikini suit? That is a weird question. So, here's the thing that I find about swimsuits is I think the only swimsuits that are actually sexualized are when you make them sexualized. I think hypothetically you could dress in a bikini at any beach and you're probably not going to be in that much trouble. But I do think that realistically it is a bit stupid that of all the Danganronpa-esque characters, only 2 of them were one pieces. Like, you would think way more girls would be self-conscious about themselves. Like, Kyoko has like one of the tightest bikinis ever. And it's like, Kyoko? Are you kidding me? She seems like the last person who would want to wear that kind of outfit. But from a Catholic perspective, I'd have to say Himiko. I do really like how she does it. I think it's cute, but it's not like sexualized. Like, I feel like even the horniest people in the world would see what Himiko looks like in Danganronpa S and probably like wouldn't get horny from her. And I wish that all the characters would get that treatment. An anti-hero. Oh, that's so funny. My brothers are like that too. They love playing the bad guy in video games, whereas I always like being the lawful good whenever I'm on the alignment chart. It's probably why I've never been... Or no, I take that back, actually. When I play Life is Strange, I've actually gotten some choices where I've been in the 1% range. And my very first time playing Life is Strange 2, I got the good ending. And then I looked up the other endings, and yep, sure enough, that was the best ending. But yeah, there was one time where in Life is Strange 1, Chloe was smoking, and her stepdad caught her smoking. And you had the option to either squeal on her or keep her secret. And I kid you not, I was in the 1% range of the people that said, yeah, Chloe was smoking. You should punish her for it. So I guess a lot of people are too much of shippers. I think there was another option where these characters were meant to like kiss each other, and I made them hug instead, and that was like in the 3% range. And I just love it whenever I'm the contrarian in those games for taking the moral high ground. Life is Strange is a video game series, Jevil. There's actually another game that's coming out. Actually, I think it's already out on other platforms. But that's the Nintendo curse, is most of the games in that series took their sweet time coming to Nintendo systems. And so I'm sure it'll come eventually. It's just we have to wait for like a Nintendo Direct confirming it. I mean, Life is Strange 2 came out, I think it was like in 2015, and it took until 2023 to come to the Switch. Double Exposure came out late for the Switch, but it did come the same year. I think True Colors was the only one that actually came out at the same time as everywhere else. But I am insanely excited for Life is Strange Reunion. I made a video called Life is Strange 2 is the most Catholic game I've ever reviewed. And while I do feel like that's generally the case for the other games in the series, Life is Strange 2 has 4 different endings that radically change depending on your morality level. And as great as it is to have that level of morality in the other games, typically the ending doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like, Life is Strange 1 is a pick one or the other when you get to the final moment. Your choices up to that point have no influence on that final decision. Whereas in Life is Strange 2, every single thing you do contributes to one of 4 endings. You have a question. Why do I treat Galaxy Movie trailer difference? I wouldn't want to see a Spider-Verse trailer either. I generally don't like seeing trailers at all for movies. I just want to know, does it exist? When does it come out? End of story. So I would not treat that any differently. Can't stand Life is Strange 2. Why not? Okay, time for hot take salad. The reason why I love Life is Strange 2, not as much as Double Exposure, it's the kind of game where it feels more like an adventure than just, your average Saturday morning experience. And I love adventures. Like, that's why I love Deathly Hallows. Is there's a lot of, they're not just at school the whole time. They're actually going places and getting stuff done. Yes, a lot of the scenarios in Life is Strange 2 are far-fetched, but the emotions typically feel relatively realistic. And since you don't directly control the character who has powers, but instead are like a surrogate parent to him, it feels like it's kind of like a Big Dad simulator of sorts. And it felt really refreshing when taking the moral high ground would cause Daniel to act differently. And I knew that these other possibilities existed because at the end of each chapter in like every Life is Strange game, I don't know about Before the Storm, that's the only one I haven't played, but in every other Life is Strange game, they'll give you a percentage of like this many people chose this option. And I played a playthrough of Life is Strange 2 where every single character that could have been killed, I was able to spare that person's life. So you could say, in a manner of speaking, I did a pacifist run of Life is Strange 2. And I felt amazed by that because I don't think it's possible to do that in True Colors. And in the first Life is Strange, it is very, very, very difficult to save a certain person's life. But in Life is Strange 2, there are several characters where your decisions will like drastically determine the outcome of like how their life goes. And I feel like as someone who went through that game, there was only one point where I looked up a guide. And the only reason I looked up a guide was because apparently there's this one scene where you're forced to steal something if you don't have enough money. And I didn't know that. And I wanted to do like the lawful good route. So that was like the one thing I did that wasn't good because I didn't know that you were forced into that type of scenario. But I said in my video that I called it the Catholic strategy guide, where like you know your Catholic faith, and not only do you get rewarded by people surviving, but you get rewarded by having the perfect ending. So why do you not like Life is Strange 2 is now my question, now that I explained why I love it. If you're wondering why the computer is going all over the place, it's because I've got the rocking chair to hold it up. The reason I like double exposure better is because fundamentally from a game design perspective, it's just far less frustrating. Like it doesn't crash as much, feels better optimized. I like Hannah Tell. You know, she's a very, very good actress. And I heard that she had quite a bit of, I don't know what you would call it. I think it's like body dysmorphia. But yet she still did motion capture for Max. And I just really respect someone that is able to push past the discomforts of their body and just, you know, do that kind of performance. And I also like how you can do a platonic route in that game. That is very nice, which technically you can in Life is Strange 2 as well. I like the puzzles in double exposure. You know, going back and forth between timelines is really fun. Yes, there are a lot of unanswered questions, but that's what Life is Strange Reunion could answer. So I'm willing to withhold judgment until I play the next game. Do I want to be hyped for a movie? How would I know of a movie release if no trailer? That's why I rely on my sister. Basically, what I do, which, mind you, I don't watch that many movies to begin with, Jevel. So honestly, I'm surprised I know as many movies as I do. The way that I found out about the Super Mario Galaxy movie was they showed it in a Nintendo Direct. It was the one where they celebrated Mario's 40th anniversary. And all they showed was just this little sweeping shot of Mario sleeping against a tree and a bunch of Cheep Cheeps jumping out of the water. Pan to the sky, you see the title of the movie. For me, that was enough. At that point, I said, I don't want any more. And the internet had to ruin it because it's a movie. It's not an interactive experience. At least with game trailers, like you could just show some generic gameplay footage. Like, you know, maybe not reveal the story, but like show like, okay, here's some platforming. Here's more platforming. Okay, now I know it's a Mario Galaxy game. But in a movie, it's a completely 100% linear experience. It's not like there's anything that you can do to change the movie. If you see something in a trailer, that's what you're going to see in the movie. Well, no, that's not always true. The Harry Potter movies have had certain scenes in their trailers that didn't make it into the final movies. But I think we're past that age now where I think most movie trailers will show you what the final product is going to be. So, my ideal way of finding out about a movie is to have people like you and Matthew and my sister to just say, hey, this movie exists. And I can say, cool, let's go see it. End of story. That's my hot take. If anyone else has a better idea, please let me know and I will consider it the next time an event like this happens. But I do appreciate that Nintendo seems to be keeping the Zelda movie under quite a lot of wraps because at this point, all we really know about it is what Link and Zelda look like and who's playing them, and that it's live action. And that's the way I hope that it stays. Because honestly, I do not want to know any more details besides that. But if you played the video games, you know that most. So here's the thing. It's. Am I allowed to say your first name? Because I think you said your first name before, but welcome in, Bo. How do you pronounce that name? Is it Bonnie? Bonnie? Melissa. Welcome in, Melissa. Glad to hear it. Is it really Bonnie? That is so cool. But welcome in. Glad you could make it. I hope this doesn't ruin the possibility of a phone call, because next month is my birthday. Um, Bonilla. Okay. I would have thought it was Vanilla. Okay. Because I have a friend who has a similar last name to yours and a similar name to yours. And so when I told my parents about you, they were kind of shocked because they were like, that is eerily similar. But glad you could make it in. Any good news? Any things you're excited about? But yes, I do hope we can talk on the phone in April, because April's my birthday. I think it's your birthday as well, if I'm remembering correctly. So I really hope we can do something special for it. But to answer your question, Jevel, I don't know. I like being surprised about Mario enemies. Like when I when I played Super Mario Odyssey, when I found out that certain enemies that hadn't ever been in a 3D game appeared, it was nice to have that, like, oh wow, I never would have expected that enemy to be there. So like, I don't know, say I see a Paper Mario character, say Vivian is in the movie, I'm going to be more excited by not knowing it than by knowing it. Just cleaning up, then you got a grocery shop of I'm starting to learn my figures of speech. I know that OFC stands for of course. Give me a round of applause, chat. I actually know an abbreviation. Trailer are more of an appetite by the time you watch the movie. I mean, I'm not trying to say you're not allowed to watch trailers. Like, if that's what gets you excited, power to you. I just wish there was a way for people like me to not have to deal with that. Actually, I'm curious. Jebel, you're the only one who's been talking about this. For everyone else in the chat, how do you prefer to go into movies? Do you like seeing trailers, or do you want to just know that the movie exists and leave it at that? I'm genuinely curious. But also, to be fair, I usually only watch movies like once or twice a year, if that. So maybe I'm just in such the minority that I am in the unpopular opinion. You skip trailers? Yeah. Except INFJ equals shortcuts. You know what? That is news to me. Because from my experience, INFJs are the least likely type to take shortcuts because they have extroverted thinking blind. So it means that they're slow about everything. So I would be very curious to hear you expand whatever the word is. Elaborate on that. Because I used to think I was the type of person that took shortcuts. But then I had someone the other day say something very interesting to me. She said, Paul, you strike me as the type of person that takes the slow and steady route. Like you'd be the tortoise over the hare. And I was like, oh, wow, I always thought I would be the hare because I get everything done way faster than everyone else. But I think, like, even though I get things done faster, I see failure as a means to results. So I think there are too many people that look at the end product first. All right, shortcuts to get your interest. Okay. Can you show me an example of that? Because I can't visualize that for some reason. But yes, you are slow pokes. Skip to it because it slows you down. Skim, skip, conclude quickly in your mind. Failure is a means to results. Yes, I agree. Like every time I make a bad video, I learn from my mistakes and make a better one. And to this day, all of my friends that have given me feedback on my best games of the year videos have said that every single one of them was better than the last. Why? Because I listened to the feedback and I said, well, yeah, I made a mistake that time, but now the next video is better as a result. You are what is called a super fan. You need a trailer for a movie and you want more of it. Interesting. Would you ever This is strictly for you, Jevil, but anyone else can answer if you want to. But for you in particular, Jevil, what would you consider to be too much of a trailer? Like, surely you want to at least be surprised by some stuff, wouldn't you? Yeah, because, like, how much is too much? Like, when I was watching the Harry Potter movies, like, those trailers spoiled, like, half of the movie. Thankfully, by the time I started watching the Harry Potter movies more, I had already read the books. I was all over the place with regards to Harry Potter. By the way, Melissa, did you ever see this t-shirt? You and I have only ever talked on the phone, I think. So I have a really great t-shirt collection, and this is one of my favorites because it actually started a friendship at the gym. Someone saw me wearing this shirt, and she said, "I want to ask what house you're in," and then we became friends after that. Just regular trailer. You think clip you wouldn't watch? Okay. What was I saying before that? I lost my train of thought. Oh well. What was I saying? Deathly Hallows shirt. Harry Potter trailers, that's it. I was all over the place with how I got into Harry Potter. I started out by watching the first 4 movies, but I watched them out of order. Because I watched Goblet of Fire before I watched Prisoner of Azkaban. Then I finally started reading the books, and I read all 6 books, because Deathly Hallows... yeah, because I didn't read Deathly Hallows right away. I read the first 6. Then I watched Order of the Phoenix. Then I read Deathly Hallows. And then I watched the remainder of the movies. So, all over the place. Next time you'll try a new method, only watching one trailer. Sounds good to me. But anyway, Melissa, I completely forgot to ask how you were doing. Or if I did, I must have forgotten it. But, any big news lately? Whoops, I pressed the wrong button there. I lost my train of thought again. Hey, Paul, did you see the news? Some streamer shot a dead alligator. 3 bullets on it, and he got arrested. There's a database that people think it's okay because it was already dead. I have no clue what the situation was because I did not watch the news. Because I am not good at hidden meanings, so I tend to not like watching the news because I feel like I won't get the nuance behind it. So I have no clue, like how animal rights are treated or anything like that. Typology, for example. You listen, avoid studying, you skim. What's the next thing? That's the next thing. Skim, skim, skim. Find yourself in a niche. Don't know the material thoroughly. Okay. Let me see it. Okay. Let me think about that for a couple of seconds. Okay. I think I get what you're saying. I am not actually much of a skimmer. I am very much a step-by-step type of guy. If I'm going to learn something and you skip over a detail, I am going to completely lose it. I'm going to be like, whoa, 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 slow down. You just jumped straight to point E before you jumped to point B. And it gets me every single time. I've gotten better at it when I'm around INFJs because I've learned that they tend to do summaries of everything instead of a step-by-step approach. So I've gotten to the point where I'll often say, like, this is what you meant to say, isn't it? And they'll say, like, yes, how'd you know? And I'll be like, I have too much experience with your kind. I know that you may be direct, but boy, do you hint at things a lot. But let's just say, Paul, you only watched trailer for Mario movie and the other, you would still get the news that, yeah, I was spoiled. Well, I guess voice actors don't really matter. It's more so of, like, what's in the movie. Like, if someone, I don't know, I don't want to see anything about a movie except it exists. Because, again, movies aren't interactive. If it was a video game, then I would only want to be shown, like, generic gameplay. It's why when I was getting into Virtue's Esther Ward, I misunderstood my brother when he was talking about what the ending was, because I think he didn't realize that I was listening. But it turned out that I completely misunderstood what he was saying. So by the time I did beat Virtue's Esther Ward, I was completely blown away by it because no one had given me any indication that that's what I was into, or that's what I was getting into. And now I know what he meant by what he said. And I said, well, my brain back then wouldn't have picked up on that. So going into it, knowing as little as possible, ended up making it feel very rewarding, hence the title. Have I heard of Detroit Become Human? I've heard of it, but it doesn't sound like my kind of game. If I'm thinking, if it's a shooter or a zombie game, definitely not. People, for example. Him, he looks cool, we will get along, I'll befriend him. But you don't even know him. Whatevs, I know enough. You know what? That is insane. Like, not insane in a bad way, but I am way more cautious than that. Like, usually for me, I will have to get quite a lot of what ifs out of the way. I will usually need to have a very thorough conversation with people about boundaries and say, like, hey, if we're going to be friends, you got to know that this bothers me, and I got to make sure that you're not going to be this type of person. And I need some kind of confirmation of it because I know that people are capable of lying. I think for you in particular, Melissa, I think the reason I was willing to be your typology buddy or potentially friend, whatever you want to call us at this point, is because I knew that we would be able to assess boundaries pretty quickly, considering that you it was in a public group that you reached out to me. So I was able to say, like, okay, well, let me type in, like, hey, this is what I want and what I don't want. And I think if you do that in a public group, you're less likely to make it up because everyone can see it. I missed a lot. Let me see what I missed. A game and movie should be on the same media scale. Yeah, I don't like spoilers for games either. I just want the bare minimum of it exists. Here's something to know about it. End of story. Like with Danganronpa 2x2, just knowing it's a remake of the second game, there's a new scenario with the same characters but different victims, murders, and murder methods. That's it. That's all I want to know. The thing about the voice actors, that was okay because that's more about voice actors, but I didn't want to know anything else than that. And the trailers have done a good job of only giving me the absolute bare minimum. It's a story game just like Life is Strange 2, but it's way... Oh, okay, maybe I would be into that then. Unless it's a shooter, in which case, nope, not going to happen. Robots trying to get rights and equal laws. What does resting on your laurels mean? I don't think I've ever like, I've heard that saying, but I don't know what it means in context. If you ever need help with extroverted thinking, just let me know. Because I've been told that I'm the type of guy that you talk to me whenever you want me to eliminate unnecessary tasks. I'm glad to hear that we are friends. That is very nice to hear. Speaking of Hey Girl, we actually have been doing some video chats lately. So it's possible maybe she needs a break or maybe she's at work. But it's been fun. Very curious about the faith, and I've been given a chance to talk to her about Jesus quite a lot. It's been absolutely wonderful. Not a shooter, it's a choice-based game. Super realistic with the economy, and there's like 12 endings. Okay. I'll have to look that up if it's on the Switch. Because I do like choice-based games. That's true. Essentially, it means relying on your natural gifts too much. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. In that case, I've definitely fallen into that trap where, like, I used to think that I had such a good memory that I would want to, like, lord it over people. Like, when I wrote an autobiography about my times in high school, I would try to name drop every single person there, and it got my INTJ friend super annoyed because he was like, "Stop bragging about your memory. No one cares about who was there." And so I had to learn to tone it down a bit and not just give all these unnecessary details and be like, "Okay, okay, maybe not everyone's going to have a memory like mine. I just got to accept that I might have to speed it up a bit in the storytelling department." But I will say, Paul, in movie theater, there's a preview. Yeah, well, thankfully, most of the previews that I see in the movies are of movies that I have no interest in. It's not on Switch. Oh, that's a shame. The professor at college is super unprofessional. No one likes her. Well, I never went to college, so I don't know what's considered professional or not. But generally speaking, I would say professors that respect that students are paying for the lessons, that they should be given a luxury. That's my perspective. If students are like, "Oh, no, not another class," then you know you're doing a bad job. That's my opinion, at least. That's why, because I'm the assistant teacher to 4th and 5th graders at my parish, I want the kids to feel like they're having fun, and I want them to feel like they can enjoy being in the classroom. Of course, being the assistant teacher, there's really only so much I can do. But I do try to ask them, like, "Oh, hey, you got any good news? You've been doing sports lately?" Um, Stuff like that, to try to make them feel at least a little bit better, not like, "Oh, great, another Sunday school teacher." But I did get a Christmas card from one of my girls that said, again, 4th grader, so grammar's not quite up to par with mine. She said, "You're the Sunday school teacher ever." I think she meant to say best Sunday school teacher ever. And then she put below that, "I love it whenever you share your stories." So that got me thinking, I bet that whenever I'm in a position where I'm teaching kids, the thing that they want to hear from me the most are stories. So I made a mental note. I don't even need to make a mental note. I have a folder in my room called My Class's Christmas Cards. And I told myself, if you really want to get the attention of these kids, tell more stories. So that's just something I think about whenever I go into class now. Yeah, I think it would be better if you did that, Jevil, because that's the thing about Zelda games is they make you, like, the thrill of it is discovery. And so if the movie, like, made you discover something before you saw it, it would defeat the point. And I think they did say that they wanted it to seem like one of those Japanese anime movies where, like, the thrill of the moment is what gets you. Oh yes, I adore that Christmas card. I love how I think it was like 4 girls in my class. I don't know why they were all girls. I guess like guys aren't as much of card writers, but 4 of the girls in my class wrote me Christmas cards. And I think of those 4, 2 of them hand wrote it themselves. And again, I felt super honored because I'm always worried. Maybe this is just inferior extroverted intuition talking, but I'm always worried that I'm annoying the kids in my class and thinking, "Oh, great, did I say the wrong thing?" And um, are they secretly wishing I would shut up? And so getting stuff like that is really refreshing. But I would say that having this job as an assistant teacher is one of the most fulfilling things of my entire life at this point. Because I've always said, or at least I've said since I think I was like 17 when I first felt the call is like, you are going to teach young people about the faith because you have a way of presenting things that you're in a unique position to do. And now that I'm in this assistant teaching job, I feel like I'm fulfilling the meaning for my entire existence. And I'm not just saying that in this abstract way. I genuinely have heard when my sister was praying over me that God told her to tell me, like, this is the reason for your existence, Paul, and this is what I want you to do while you're here. So I just feel so honored and so humbled that someone like me, who isn't really abstract, isn't really into stuff like hunches and hidden meanings, would get the reason for my existence revealed to me, when so many intuitives struggle all their lives to hear that. Not a, oh, well, I guess since Nintendo announced it, I can let that slide. But don't say anything that the leakers have revealed. But yeah, I'm pretty mad about that as well, Jevil. Yeah, that is super annoying. But at the same time, considering the way that Nintendo has treated that franchise, I think it was a necessary marketing tool to get fans of that series to realize that Nintendo hasn't abandoned them. Because I think when you're a fan of a certain gaming series and you haven't had an entry in so long, you get this impression that the higher ups who make the games don't like the fans of their games. And so I think Nintendo just wanted to get goodwill from the Star Fox community. Because goodness knows they need it after what happened with Star Fox Zero. You know what, guys? You guys have gotten me so invested in this conversation that I've hardly taken any sips of water. So good on you all for engaging in chat today. I really appreciate it. I don't know about that, Jevil, but I wouldn't be thrilled with. Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. I really appreciate you stopping by. Stopping by without me telling you, too. Future references, it'll usually be around 5 p.m. EST, which I think is also your time. It won't be regular, but it'll at least be around that time. So just make that a mental note. But you have a great rest of your day. Yep, I'll send you a Facebook message about it just in case you forget. In fact, I'll do that right now. Just to make sure. All right, let's see here. Okay, there we go. Alrighty. Well, you guys might start seeing Melissa more often here. Whew, alright. In case you guys are wondering, I have a really sore knee, but not as sore as yesterday, because my sister prayed over my left knee yesterday, and it felt so much better after that prayer session. It was so bad that I could hardly walk down the stairs, but now I'm more or less back to normal walking speed. I probably will have to take it easy at the gym, just because I don't want to undo all that progress. Because I've been told, you can be miraculously healed, but you can undo the healing if you get cocky about your healing. That's why after I had my miraculous healing on my back and shoulders, a lot of the adult leaders at that mission trip said, now, Paul, don't go lifting up too heavy of things just because you were healed. Like, yes, it's great that you were healed, but you can undo the healing by not treating your body properly. So I'll probably stick to like arms or light cardio. I've never been a huge fan of Honey Queen, if I'm being honest. All you do is crawl around her to get star bits, and that's so slow and tedious. Like, I think her fur is nice for the time that it came out. Like, it was pretty unusual to get like every hair of fur visible on an animal back in the wee days. Like, look at Twilight Princess. Blink didn't have any hair. Or at least if he did, it was like meant to be the hair on his head, but like all the wolf hairs weren't there. Wart, again, I never beat Super Mario Bros. 2, but he had a pretty cool spirit battle in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, so I like him for that. What was I going to say? I might have to wrap it up pretty soon, guys, because I am getting pretty tired. But I will, before I do, I just wanted to express how grateful I am that my sister is trained in prayer ministry. Because I think if it weren't for her, I would still be hobbling around and probably wouldn't have even done this live stream. Because I would have just moaned and groaned in bed all day, and I wouldn't have been able to climb down the stairs to the basement. I guess it would be okay to see Rock Mario. I want to see Paper Mario. Don't tell me if that's been revealed or not. That's just something I'm just throwing out there. It's just bringing more love to the Mario RPGs. Like, let's see someone like Paper Mario or Goombella or Fawful, like, get into the weird side of Mario. Although, here's a bit of a fun fact that I bet you didn't know. There is one character from the Mario RPGs that appeared in the Mario movie, and that was Baby Peach. Like, yes, Peach existed as a character. I know you're going to say that. But that particular design of Baby Peach first appeared in Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. Some people could also say Yoshi's Island DS, but let me see which one came first. Because I know Yoshi's Island DS also had Baby Peach in it. Let me double check that. Okay, that game came out in 2006. Let me see where it came out in Japan, just to really double check here. Okay, came out in Japan later. Came out in 2007 in Japan. Okay. Well, there you go. Baby Peach debuted in Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, which came out in 2005. So it did predate Yoshi's Island DS. Alrighty, guys. I'm starting to feel my energy waning, so I think I'm going to call it here. Let me do my usual thanking everyone who is here. Thank you, Jevil. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Billy. It's been a long time since we heard from Billy, but thank you regardless. Make sure I'm not missing anyone here. Pretty sure that was everyone. Yeah, I'm not seeing anyone else. All right, there we go. We got everyone. Yeah, we'll wait and see. But thank you so much for showing up, you guys. I really appreciate it quite a lot. Keep in mind that I will usually be live streaming at 5 p.m. EST. If I do stream, again, probably won't be regular, but that is the time that I'll typically start. So make a mental note or whatever you need to do to remember that. Assuming you're not just good at looking at your notifications. I hope that you all enjoy the Mario movie. Please pray for my family. Please pray that I'll have a good birthday. Please pray that Esbel and I will have a fun time together when she comes to visit. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.